This episode of Everything is Awesome is brought to you by Tellist. Tellist is a fantasy world created by Michael D'Angelo. Spanning 15 novels and novellas, Tellist is a place of magic and splendor, where great heroes fight for the people. Some of these heroes are blessed with the strain, granting them uncanny abilities. The Tellist universe is medieval superhero fantasy with steampunk elements that mix with several different mythologies. With so much to choose from, the world is in your hands. Get more information, purchase the books, and discover the world of Tellist at Tellist.com.
This is a That's Entertainment podcast.
Awesome.
Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome.
That was awesome. You guys are awesome.
No,
You're awesome. You are awesome.
sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. And oh boy, we're getting back into it good this year, guys. We've already talked about 2020, and I know if you're listening to this in episode order, the timey-wimey aspect of everything is blowing your mind right now. But hey, let's pretend you're on a TARDIS and it doesn't matter, all right? I'm so happy to be back into podcasting. A lot of what I'm doing is just kind of getting everything caught up that's already recorded. I'm also recording some new content. I got some new experimental episodes that I want to record. I also want to start introducing actual plays into this Everything is Awesome with Kevin Gallagher feed. We're not going to become an actual role-playing game podcast, but I want to start including some of my games that I've designed and sit down and play test them with friends and sit down and record those for the podcast because it's a part of what I do, so why would I not share it on this podcast feed, you know? So we're going to be doing some there's going to be a bunch of recordings that I recorded last year that are going to be put up as we go on. There's going to be new episodes that we record that go up along with those as we post about 3 episodes a week or something, as we previously mentioned on another episode. But today we are going to kick it back to an episode that I recorded, oh gosh, almost a year ago to the day. Maybe a week longer. And it is one of my favorite people who we actually on not just this show, but on the entire That's Entertainment Podcast Network, we get to hear from on every episode. The voice of the network, Kacey Spivey. We're not going to bury the lead. When I recorded this episode last year, so we recorded this in 2019. We went all of 2018 without an appearance with Kacey, which we dive into in this episode. We talk about her past appearances and stuff. And Kacey, still to this day, is one of a few people that have multiple episode arcs that aren't just two-parters. There are a handful of people that have come back to the show. Your Mike D'Angelo's, who's my best friend, so of course he's going to be on whenever I need him. You have your Jeff Stormers, who have done multiple appearances. You have, I'm burning out on top of my head. Chris Revel, Ben Wallace, I believe. If not already, shortly you'll hear him again on the network or on this episode, on this podcast. Guys, it's Monday. I haven't had coffee yet. I have not had my coffee yet. But she's part of an elite group of super friends who, through this podcast, I met. And even though we're separated by the entire country, Team East Coast, Team West Coast, I consider her a friend. And I enjoy everything she does. She inspires me as a creative person, much like everyone you listen to that is a multiple episode guest, chances are they inspire me in some fashion. And that includes Mike and Jeff Stormer and James D'Amato and Kacey Spivey. All anyone that I have on more and more, it's because I genuinely like them and I genuinely am inspired by them and love what they do. So that's what this episode is. This episode, so first and foremost, and I guess this wasn't first necessarily, but foremost, certainly, apologies to Kacey Spivey for waiting nearly a year, over a year to get this episode out. Unfortunately, that meant that we truly did wait until 2020 to get her back on the show, which means we're going to have Kacey on the show at least one or two more times in 2020. And I know from what she's doing, in the creative space, she's got a lot to talk about with both the, what she does for her personal projects and what she does professionally. So we'll be sure to get her back on. To note, there are going to be things that are discussed in this episode that are obviously a little dated. Very specifically, I believe, where she works. I believe she has moved on to another position with another company. But she was the head writer for the place that we talk about in this episode, and a wonderful addition to the team. And it was great kind of getting to see her in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia area, Bucks County, see her videos played not on the internet. Like, that was really cool. As like a friend of hers, like, oh my God, like I know her. That was crazy. We also talk about near the end of this episode about a certain podcast that happened and is now currently on hiatus, but we'll end up playing one or two episodes from their feed in our feed, just so that you can get to hear it. You should still go subscribe and listen to what they did. I always have the hope that they will come back and do it again, and that they'll once they get a stride in their video production, that Kacey and Heidi will come back with the Blind Jokes as a podcast, because it was genuinely one of my favorite things to listen to as I got ready to post it and stuff. But I still consider the Blind Jokes part of the team. Kacey is always going to be part of the network. She is our voice. And I'm just very excited that we got to sit down and talk to Kacey. Hey, you know what? I've gone on and on. Let's just kick it to us in the very distant past and listen to Kacey and myself just chat about life, like things like the DC universe, the Blind Jokes, that little musical she was a part of, Shame of Thrones, the musical, and a whole bunch of other things that we chatted about. I'll be back for a very brief, mid-session break, and for a mid-roll. That's what they call it. I'll be back for a very, very brief mid-roll. And then again to kind of wrap the episode up. So thank you all for listening, and let's kick it over to Kacey Spivey right here on Everything Is Awesome on awesomepodcast.com. The first episode since our anniversary show that we that at the time of this recording we have yet to do, but obviously, okay. Obviously, if it's after, it's it's aired already. So I'm not like every anniversary show, like the episode after, I change something up with the show, and I haven't decided exactly what that is. So I don't know if I'm doing an actual intro. Like so the last time, the first time you were on the show, we did like this long-winded intro, and then I got rid of that and just do like a post intro and outro. And I was thinking about bringing it back, but I don't know. So, you know what? Maybe if we bring it back, ladies and gentlemen, here's Kacey Spivey. Yay!
Hey! Woohoo!
And if I decided to do the post intro, well, then you got a double introduction.
Dope.
But it's been I want to say, actually, in the year of 2018, I don't think you were on the show. I think we had you on twice in 20. Yeah.
No.
Uh,
Oh, well, hold on, because I keep copious notes. Okay, so I have February 20, I'm such a nerd. I have February 2017, June
yeah,
2017. Then I have the Justice League.
yeah, and that was I think like November of 2017 or maybe December.
Seriously?
Yeah, yeah. I think 28 like now I
Oh
guess
my God.
yeah, yeah, it's been over a year at this point. But that's also not fair cuz technically everyone gets to hear your voice every week on this show because you are the voice of the network.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. And
So
you
literally I've been on every show, and literally I was on every show in 18.
not every show because I think it started I think I had you start doing it maybe in like the spring of 2018, but almost every
Okay.
episode of 2018.
Oh my God.
And it's
I
I
can't
have
believe it's been that long.
right, I know. I was thinking about this the other day when and I mean I'd be lying. We all know I'd be lying if I said if I was preparing for this episode, but I don't know what I guess because it was coming up. I was thinking about it.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, it's literally been over a year at this point. Like the last episode, but your last episode, even though it was a train wreck to edit because there was five different pieces of audio to put together with all the different guests,
Yeah.
or panelists, I should say, that birthed the format that we
Casey.
do at cons. Oh, it also
Oh,
yes, it also birthed Casey for Batgirl,
yeah, exactly. I only
which
bring that up because I was literally asked about that today. And
oh well
I was like, oh wait, oh yeah, that
yeah.
birth, that was like, oh my God. Anyways, I was thinking about that, and I was like, how interesting that, like, how serendipitous that I'm going back on that show today.
Well, it's funny because I literally just looked at your your Twitter bio because that's obviously the Bible.
That's so funny. Because I just took it out like literally 2 hours ago.
And it's I've been
And
like
now
doing
I'm literally going back in and putting it in as we speak.
it's
Literally as we
funny.
speak. Because
That's
I
funny
went,
because
is this sad? Is this pathetic
no,
now?
no.
Because should I put it back in?
Yes, absolutely you
Okay,
should.
I'm gonna put it back in. I'm gonna put it back in. Because
This
this is fresh.
this is how much I think you should put it back in. I'm still in the process of trying to get the store together on our website, but
Yeah.
I was putting together a bunch of like a couple of different everything is awesome shirts, and then I have like these two random shirts that are just random sayings. And I was like, oh my God, I think hashtag Casey for Batgirl needs to be a shirt.
Uh Absolutely. And you can keep all of that money. I will buy a shirt from you for it. I
It's
would love that. Because it hasn't been like the movie is still in the works, so I
oh
feel like
yeah.
that we've still got a chance.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, now I have not been reading up on it at all. And I really only look at like io9.com now for like my beat news, I guess.
Okay.
And occasionally like whatever gets tweeted out there. I guess Twitter is really what I look at the most.
Twitter, yeah, same.
But I mean, ever since like Joss Whedon stepped away, there really hasn't been much development and news on it, except for me, unless that character is going to be involved with the Birds of Prey /
Show.
Harley Quinn movie. I have no
Oh,
idea.
right. I I think the last thing I read about it was that the writer of Birds of Prey is being romanced to write the Batgirl script.
Gotcha.
I think
Uh,
that might be what's going on, but I don't know. It's apparently on a break right now from
yeah. Well,
development.
I mean, God, I want to say that DC was probably and is still currently trying to figure out what's going on in their world
Yeah.
because they've Wonder Woman obviously was one of the episodes that I had you on for, and
Yes.
and that was good. And have you seen Aquaman?
Okay, I'm debating. I'm really because I don't want to be disappointed, and that's why I
Oh,
keep putting it off.
okay.
But then my friend went, who's a big fan of all comics and everything, and
Hmm.
he liked it. But I'm
So
like, there's no way this is gonna be good, and I
no.
don't want to be
Oh,
disappointed.
oh my god! I liked the trailers and whatnot, but I was like going in with the same kind of like, I don't know, like DC has really disappointed me with almost all their
Mhm.
movies except for Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah. So I went in and came out very happy. My only complaint is that it's a little too long. They could
Right,
shave
that's
like
what he
maybe
said. It was like
yeah.
yeah, like, it was like a really long movie. It was like, "We don't need 3 hours of Aquaman, like,
Yeah. And
we can
and like
just."
yeah, there's like just certain shots, and like don't get me wrong, it's all beautiful. Like here's what I really like about the movie. It's done something that a comic book movie hasn't done yet, in the sense that like it takes us underwater. It takes us to another world
Yeah.
that a movie should be doing. So every shot is beautiful. It's such a well shot movie, but there's definitely scenes, while beautiful to look at, that I'm like, yeah, you could trim at least 15 seconds here, and I'm not a great editor or anything content. Like I'm garbage, but I can. There was a lot that I noticed that I was like, all right, here's a couple seconds here and there that you could trim, and you could. I think it was like it clocked in around 2.5 hours.
Oh my
I think
gosh.
I think if you trim 15 minutes from it, it becomes a better movie. But with that being
Definitely. Always.
yeah, with that being said, though, it is, I mean, not as good as Wonder Woman, but it's definitely like the second best DC movie since
Really?
since Man of Steel. Yeah, yeah. Since the Man of Steel, the Snyderverse, I guess is what they're calling it. But uh
Right, because this is a new director. I wanna say oh, I'm
James
gonna botch
Wan.
his name. Juan? I was like, "Is
Yeah.
it Juan?" I
Yep.
think it's
Yep.
Juan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, that gives me hope
Yeah.
because I've been putting it off
No.
only
And
because I'm very scared.
here's, I think, what they did. Like one of the reasons it works so well is that like there's one throwaway line about his involvement in the Justice League movie, that
Okay.
like everyone I talked to, like they didn't even really hear that line. I just happened to hear the word Steppenwolf, and I was like, oh my god, this is like,
Mhm.
here's the connection to the rest of the universe, and then that's it. Like
Mhm.
literally nothing else is connected. uh
Ah.
and I'm hoping that Shazam, which I think is the next DC movie,
Yes,
uh,
I am excited for that.
that one looks really good too. But I'm hoping that one does the same thing, where it kind of just does its own thing and maybe throws a very light reference to the rest of the universe. Um,
Mhm.
because and I think that's why like the Batgirl movie and a lot of the other movies that were supposed to be part of this grand scheme to compete with the MCU were kind of shelved and put on hold until they can figure out what they want to do. And I think they've realized that they just need to make standalone movies and then worry. Like
Yeah.
and I shouldn't
Let
be giving away
Marvel
all
do that
my
whole shared universe thing.
yeah. Well, so and I don't want to give away all my secrets to what I think the DCEU needs, because as I was saying, the other great thing besides Casey for Batgirl that birthed from that round table was in 2018 we did like 2 panels at 2 conventions, and we go with the namesake of Dark Knights of the Round Table, which is what
Ah,
that thing. So that was like that episode where it was you, Ryan, BJ, and oh god,
okay.
people are gonna
It was
uh
Craig. Wasn't Craig
yes, and
there?
Craig, yes, Craig,
Craig, yeah.
you, and then myself. That episode, Dark Knights of
Mhm.
the Round Table, birthed like this nice little cool panel thing that I got to do in 2018, that we just applied to do another con that's in April, to do like I applied for 3 panels because I'm insane, and I want to do all the panels.
Do all the panels.
Hmm. So but yeah, so that was like my 2018 was all about like doing more public events that weren't necessarily, I got burned out doing like
Just
live,
podcasts.
well yeah, well
Oh,
very
no.
specifically live podcasting. And
Mm.
it's funny that I talk about this because almost a year ago to the day of this recording, I did, so every January I do a festival
Mhm.
that if anyone follows me on Twitter sees me talking about all the time right now, or a couple of weeks ago if you're listening to this. And last year we partnered with, I'm not going to name the organization, but we partnered with an organization that wasn't really local based. They did work for cancer and whatnot, and not for cancer. I mean, they're anti-cancer like most people are, but they
Like
they
most.
they really didn't help promote the event or anything, and it's because they have people like Ryan Reynolds working for them. So like,
Right.
they're gonna deal with Deadpool, not some jackass in Philadelphia. So I was really I got so like drunk at that event, and like I don't remember my show at all from that day.
Oh
I was
no.
so I ended up not only being like very angry at the organization for not helping make it a better event. I also was very embarrassed at how I conducted myself that day as the guy in charge of the festival.
Oh
So
my God.
I almost like I don't want to say I stepped away from podcasting, but I almost stepped away from live podcasting.
Right.
And it was very much the conventions that like brought me back to like, all right, if I just do different formats throughout the year, then I won't hate my life.
Absolutely. Or burn out on the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
Yeah. No, I
And
totally get that.
yeah, well, and yeah, like it's funny. The last time we talked, and very specifically talked like one-on-one, not about a movie, not about a round table. You were doing like 17 million different things than you are now. Again, going back
Yeah.
to the Twitter bio, which is your life.
Yeah.
Your life by your autobiography, obviously. It's not the
Yeah.
same at all. So what's going on in the world of Kacey Spivey? Because things are much different than they were about a year and a half ago, or I guess 2 years ago,
Oh my
really.
gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, well, it's like it's definitely evolved. I'm still doing very similar stuff. It's not like
Yeah.
I've jumped ship. It's like it's just kind of like I'm continuing to evolve the stuff
Mhm.
that I've been doing. So I guess we can start with my job. So I was just producing and writing and hosting and editing. I was basically just creating freelance content creating for Screen Rant and other movie entertainment based platforms.
Mhm.
And then just I don't even know if it was 6 months ago that I'm now the head writer and producer for What's Trending. So I'm like just at one place all day, just like writing and creating content just for them. And it's kind of like I got a big girl position. So that's really, really fun because, because I'm the head writer, I get to kind of, first of all, set the tone for the environment, I guess,
Yeah.
and kind of set the tone and the voice for the channel, which it's cool to see it evolve from, things that it was in the past, and like just see the differences in voices and how it affects different viewers and how it attracts different people. And some people who really liked the old stuff are like, yeah, bye, I'm unsubscribing, blah. And then these whole new group of people come in and they're like, oh my god, I love this, blah. So it is like really interesting to see that change happen. And I don't know, it's just really, really cool to be in this kind of position now.
We're just going to take a quick break to thank everyone. Thank you all for still listening to the little podcast that would and whatnot. And if you follow us on Twitter or Instagram, or follow me on Twitter and Instagram, or you go to our website, Awesome Podcast, or thatentertains.com/network. By the beginning of spring, by March sometime, between March and April, we're going to be relaunching all our websites. Crudeumorstudios.com, entertains.com, thatentertains.com/network, awesomepodcast.com, and anything else that's under the umbrella of things that we do. We're going to be relaunching all our websites. And to give you a cleaner, friendlier experience. Hoping to include a section where fans can gather, but that will probably just be a link to our Discord, if I had to guess, because Discord is a pretty cool place for fans to gather and chat, and it's something that forums are really bad for business. My experience with forums, ever since they've been a thing, and I've been designing websites, is that they bring on a whole lot of spam and kind of shut down your website. So I don't know if we're going to have direct forums, but we'll probably have our Discord server somehow either embedded in the site or easily accessible through awesomepodcast.com. So if you've been going to our websites and have had some issues, I promise you things are going to get better. 2020 has been a good year for me so far, as getting back into the creative space. Not only are we getting these podcast episodes out and getting them to you 3 times a week so that we can get caught up. That's just me. I'm a numbers guy. I'm also That Entertains is .com/the network as well. Both thatentertains.com and thatentertains.com/network. Both sites are kind of getting regular updates again. Not necessarily daily. I guess between the two, they're daily updates. And I am also getting a lot of creative output in the world beyond this podcast. I'm writing for bamsmackpal.com. It is a fan-sided website. I'm a contributor there. And that's been a wild experience. I've been writing there for about 2 weeks now. And I'll pitch an idea hey, can I do a slideshow about Jennifer Aniston and how she could play several different comic book characters, whether they're superheroes or whatever, supporting characters or whatever? Yeah, go for it. And I just looked at the number on that yesterday, and it's definitely probably in the matter of a 24-hour span, the most viewed thing I've ever done. No, that's not true. Stabcast was a very popular thing that I did, and so was my early days of podcasting through Stickcam. But so that's cool. You can find me on bamsmackpal.com. I'm writing for them. I'm hoping I had applied to write there as well as the Dork Side of the Force. It looks like I'll be able to do some Star Wars stuff on BamSmackPal. There's a lot of within the network of sites. There is a lot of topics that kind of cross-pollinate with one another, and I'm just kind of holding off because I'm getting my footing down, and if there is an opportunity for me to write for Star Wars, I would like to do it on the actual Star Wars website. But that doesn't mean if I have a really good idea, I'm not going to pitch it. I actually do have an idea that I'm waiting to pitch after I get a couple other things that I have approved, written, and out there in the world. But I write some opinion pieces. I write some fan takes on news, which almost everything that I write is somehow opinionated, and even if it's just a news article, I'm throwing in my 2 cents. So please go to bamsmackpal.com and check out my writing there. Kevin, I'm there as Kevin Gallagher. Kevin M. Gallagher Jr., I believe. I'm also writing for multiversity.com. Right now, I'm just doing wrapping up Wednesday reviews. So as of this recording, you can go there every Monday. Monday mid-morning to early afternoon, they usually post their Wrapping Wednesday posts, and I do a very short review on an issue of a comic book. And so far, I've written reviews for Batman: Curse of the White Knight by Sean Murphy, book 6, which was phenomenal, so good. I love Sean Murphy. I loved White Knight. I'm loving Curse of the White Knight. I just on a recommendation picked up Punk Rock Jesus. That was amazing. And so I'm really liking that. And my second review I did for them was the 3rd issue of Philadelphia. Written by Rodney Barnes, I believe. I apologize if I got that name incorrect. And also illustrated by Jason Sean Alexander, who is known for his Spawn work with Todd McFarlane. And it's a comic book that takes place in Philadelphia and vampires. How could I pass on that? I jumped on it as soon as I saw it. I'm really digging the Philadelphia series. It's only 3 issues deep, but it's so good. And I only get 200 to 400 words, to write about these issues in the Wrapping Up Wednesday. And I spent, like, in the first review I wrote, nearly 400 words articulating why I love Sean Murphy and the history that he has with the Batman character. And my editor was like, "Hey, buddy, I understand, but these are short micro reviews. So if you're going to write 400 words, use those 400 words to talk about just this particular issue." So I went to the next stream with Philadelphia issue 3. I'm waiting for my feedback on that, and hopefully, I'm going in the right direction with how they want to review books in that manner. What I'm really getting excited for is to be able to write full-on reviews for them, which was my original intent with Bam Smack Pow, but they stopped doing reviews for comic books. But that's been an awesome experience trying to, like, find news that I want to report on, and then find news that, like, inspires me with opinions and stuff. And sometimes I do silly things like the what do we call the Arrowverse piece that I wrote, and even the Jennifer Aniston piece was a silly piece based off some news that I read about her accepting her SAG award and her saying she was too old, which is nonsense, to play a superhero. So it's been a lot of fun and challenging. It's like really I was really worried about having to not write reviews and having to be focused on, like, opinion pieces, because I don't see the talent in myself. And it's very validating to see that I do have the talent and whatnot. So it's been exciting. And I'm trying to, in the same process as writing for those two sites, also contributing my own work to thatentertains.com on top of the podcast that I do and stuff. So you can also go there. And I'm hoping to get, like, at least, I want to do at least weekly content of my own. We got Garrett posting stuff. We got Mike posting stuff to thatentertains.com. I would like, and then me posting podcasts, of course. But I would like to get at least weekly content up there, whether it be a film review or a book review or a comic review or something like that. But I'm trying to. I'm, like, very close to, like, nailing down a schedule that works, that I'm not falling behind on. So it's a learning process in 2020, but I wanted to be more creative this year, and it's happening, and I'm very, very happy. So this was supposed to be a brief mid-roll, guys, so I'm sorry that I ate it up. I just want to thank y'all for your support, your continued support. If you're listening to this and you've listened to other episodes, you're not here just for Kacey, thank you so much for your continued support. I'm hoping to do some cool things with this podcast in as we approach the summer and we get caught up, and I can focus on, like, weekly content again with this show. And it's always going to be a long form conversation podcast, but I'm also very interested in sprinkling in some fun things like actual plays and stuff that I mentioned in the intro of the show. Anyway, thank you again, once again, and let's get back to Kacey and Kev of the past right here on awesomepodcast.com.
Comedy-wise, I think, was I going to New York yet when we talked?
God, when we talked, no, I guess when we talked officially, you were just doing the LA and maybe Comic-Con stuff. I think there was a rumor that you were
Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Going to New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the show killed and crushed at Comic-Con. The Game of Thrones the musical, for anyone who's
Shame of Thrones.
Well, I'll tell you that story. Okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah, because I remember very specifically when, like, it very quickly changed from Game of Thrones, the parody musical, to Shame of Thrones. I was like, oh, somebody got in trouble. And I assume you didn't, since you were just acting on it, but somebody, unless you were the reason.
No, definitely not. So for anyone who doesn't know this context, I was playing Daenerys in the parody musical of Game of Thrones the musical that ran in LA, and then we took it to Comic-Con, and it did really, really well, and it did so well, in fact, that the producers decided to take it off Broadway. So we all went to New York, kind of like indefinitely. We were like, okay, so this could be closed in a week, or this could be running for a year. Who knows? We were all kind of up for the adventure, and it went to New York as Game of Thrones the musical. It was right down in Times Square. It was like, doing pretty well with the tourist scene. And even like the New York Times gave it a good review and stuff. I mean, New York always has mixed reviews because they're very critical in their theater world, and it is very different from the theater scene in LA. Well, theater scene in LA is like, oh, you've got an idea? Great, put it up. See if people come. Like, blah. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's very much, it doesn't have the scrutiny or holiness that it does in New York. But it was like, it did really well the first month, so they decided to, extend it and keep it going for the next month. And HBO called.
which at first it sounds like, oh, that's exciting, but I know
No.
I've dealt with cable companies sending me communication, and it's it's definitely the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was not a part of that conversation. Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
just an actor here over there. So, but I don't think it was a very
No, I
exciting
mean,
conversation.
judging by the fact that you went to New York as Game of Thrones, and you guys left New York Shame of Thrones, clearly HBO was not
Clearly.
happy.
Not at all. But it was very interesting because they were aware of the show the whole time. From what I've heard,
Yeah.
it's just because started becoming successful,
Mm-hmm.
they were like, okay, we got to shut this down, rather than like, oh, it's just some random, they like we weren't causing a problem until we got to New York and we're trying to, compete, and then that started causing a problem. So they had to change the name, which completely uprooted all marketing and all,
Mm-hmm.
like, it just uprooted everything, and it was just like really hard to recover from that,
Yeah.
especially, in that kind of game. And so they just decided, you know what, let's just call
Yeah.
it. And we all came back to LA, and it was a really cool thing to say that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also a really big, learning opportunity, especially for, you know, people, us in the cast.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much, it was a lot of learning at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, it was a lot. It was fun, and I'm so blessed to have been able to go and experience that.
It
And also it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird to see how different companies react to their IP being what, I don't know, parodied or like shown love from fans, because like, I
Hmm.
mean, you see very actively Lucasfilm embraces Star Wars fan parody stuff, to the point
Right.
where I want to say like they have a section on their website about it.
Right.
And like, even and maybe it didn't blow up enough to really catch Disney or ABC's attention, but like the Once Upon a Time gang, when they did their Once Upon a Time spoof stuff,
Right.
I mean, they funded a film through Indiegogo, which to me seems like you're getting a lot of attention, and I know it got the attention of some of the cast members of the show. So
Right.
it's just, it's
Yeah. I
super
mean, they had done Lost the
yeah.
musical, which I guess I guess the difference is Lost wasn't still on the air,
Oh, okay.
but I guess Once Upon a Time still was.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It's crazy. It's just
it's tricky.
yeah,
It's really tricky.
and I would, and this is why I'm like a terrible content creator when it comes to anything besides podcasting. And even that, most people would say, well, you're terrible at that too. But
No.
But like it is like when it comes to parody, I just automatically assume it's fair. It's all fair. If I add the word parody to anything in the title or the description, it's fine because it's fair use at that point. So
Right.
it's strange that HBO, because it wasn't like in the title of the play or the musical, didn't it parody, was it like Game of Thrones a parody rock musical or something like that?
Yeah. Well, when they went to New York, they branded it as a parody rock musical, I think is
Yeah.
what it was. Yeah. So, I mean, they really thought that they were in the clear, and everyone was trying to be very, what's nice about the producers was everyone does everything by the book, above board. Everyone's very honest, and it's not, we weren't trying to be
Yeah.
shady, and like, I mean, they could have fought and said, no, like it they could have been nasty about it,
Yeah.
but like, why would you want to be nasty to HBO? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, that's not gonna help
See,
you.
that's the difference between someone who actually works in the business of Hollywood and films,
Yeah.
and someone like me who's like, I'm a indie content creator, fuck them all.
Right.
uh
No, we want HBO to hire us.
yeah.
So
See, it's funny because I think my mindset is like, even with the lofty dream of wanting to write and direct and do my version of, my Clerks and whatnot, I don't think any part of me
right.
ever was like, you know what, I want Disney to hire me, like, or like maybe the closest thing I have to that is like, oh yeah, I would totally, if Marvel said come and write this superhero movie, I totally would do that. That's maybe the only
Right.
thing that I could, oh yeah, I would do that. Other than that, like, I just want to, I'm in the business of like wanting to do whatever I want to do, and
Right.
I feel like if you work in a studio system where, while that might be the dream, it's not really conducive to doing your own thing.
Totally. Yeah, and perfect example right there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
And speaking of doing your own thing, unless you have anything else to say about the rise
Oh
and
no. No,
downfall
that's
of,
a perfect segue, actually. I was like, oh, very nice
yeah,
segue.
see, I do know something about podcasting and radio and stuff, even to the point where you pointed out. That's classic podcasting is pointing out the segue. So yeah, so one of the big things that you've started doing that I'm like, like, it super pumped me, and I say it super pumped me up, like, to the point where I think I messaged you and said, oh man, it inspired me to get back into writing, and then I instantly fell off of that project because I'm so involved with podcasting. But
Right.
it is like literally the Blonde Jokes is like, oh my god, obviously I don't want to like be a blonde female doing these comedic acts, but this is like that, what you guys are doing with the Blonde Jokes is literally like years ago when we set up Crude Humor Studios, the parent company to my empire here. I was like, oh, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna do a bunch of skits and sketches and whatnot. Becoming a parent and an adult kind of prevented us from doing it. But yeah, Blonde Jokes. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
Blonde Jokes.
binged some today because I fell behind on like 3 or 4
Oh
episodes.
God. Okay, good.
So I binged up, and so before we get into like how this came about, I hope, I pray to God, the characters you guys did for Casual Airlines, they and it doesn't need to be Casual Airlines. I want those characters just to recur in like a casual whatever. Like, that's a brand that you guys should be doing. I love.
It should have been Cannabis Airlines. That's what it should have been.
But those characters, you could easily do like other skits and sketches with those characters in different scenarios besides an airline. Oh my god, I fell in love with that skit. Like, that is,
Oh my God.
not to put
Great.
down anything else you guys have done. It's all great, but that is my favorite thing.
Really? That makes me so happy because I wrote that one.
Yeah, it is.
That makes me happy.
It is so good, and like, and like, to me, like, I hate calling myself a content creator because it involves so much. I'm very my podcasting is my niche. So, but as like a content creator, I can recognize like that is probably like such an easy setup to do too, since it's just like it looked to me just like
White screen.
yeah, a white screen with like
Yeah.
the back or like the border art or whatever, and then just like
Right.
it looks like it's such an easy project to do.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to say because that belittles it too, but in terms of
No,
everything you
that
guys
was
do
the
with the
point.
blonde jokes, that seemed like one of the
Right.
simpler projects. And I just love
Yeah.
those characters. But so
Thank you.
yeah, amazing.
Thank you. I mean, so I guess I could kind of backtrack into how it kind of came about, because the evolution of the Game of Thrones, I got back from that experience, and I just kind of I took a minute to recover, and then I got back into doing sketches around town, kind of like how I always had done. I was always involved in different sketch shows, um, and I just noticed I was playing the same character kind of over and over and over again, and I was like, okay, like this works in the way that it gets me cast and stuff, but I'm actually really bored of this now. And I wasn't really finding joy in doing the shows anymore because I wasn't challenging myself. And so I was thinking about like, okay, I need to start my own thing. I know how to do production, and I've done it in various forms before. And, my job is in production, and I write and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I think that I could create my own space. And what do I want that to look like? And I had a lot of different ideas, but one person or two people really, I mean, I guess I'll get into this, but I had two friends who we kind of they didn't know each other, but on separate conversations, I was like, we had all been talking about like, man, like it's just really difficult to find material that's exciting, especially comedy wise, and honestly, even in auditions in the industry. And so I was like, I just kind of had this idea of like, oh, well, first I was thinking of calling it like, what was I thinking of calling it? Something like girl comedy, or like lipstick comedy or something like that. And then I was like, oh wait, both of these friends are blonde jokes. Oh, that might be cute. So like I was a nerd, and I like put a pitch packet together for them, kind of pitching it as like Amy Schumer, or Key and Peele, kind of put together. And I said, I know that this is like a really difficult thing to do, and we don't even know how difficult this is going to be yet. But knowing, like looking forward, it's going to be really hard. And but I believe that if we commit to doing it, and we commit to doing it for an extended period of time, we will only get better and better and better, and we'll only learn more and more, and we'll only just it'll only get better. But we have to start somewhere. And my two friends were like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So we started, and it is like doing the bigger sketches with absolutely no budget. And it's like it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult. I enjoy it. I find it thrilling. And but one of my friends, she did not find it thrilling and exciting, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of you think that the fun part is the writing, the coming up with the ideas, and then acting in it. And the sucky part, which is 90% of it, is the organization of it, the producing of it, the editing of it, the marketing of it, the like remembering to bring trash bags to set, and like, or it's just like that's 90% of it. And so, like, you know, one of my friends also enjoyed it and one of my friends did not. And so we just decided, you know what? Don't do something that you don't enjoy because it's too hard. It's just too hard if you're not fueled by it. So everything's on good terms, but now there's just two of us who are working on it, and it's kind of still evolving, but that was the whole point, was just to create a space for ourselves to practice and to challenge ourselves and to come up with characters and do it. And you know, it's evolving, and there's definitely sketches where I'm like, oh my gosh, this turned out really weird. And then there's stuff that we did where, like, I wrote and directed the sketch that's like a horror film esque. It's like called Tupperware, and it was so exciting to figure out how to direct that, because I would have never done that otherwise. I was basically, you know, emulating a horror film, and there's not really another space that you get to do that and do it. We did it in one day, and you know, it's just like it's really fun to be stretched, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole point of it. And it's fun because, you know, our friends ask us about it. People are like, "Oh, this is actually really fun. It's a really fun concept." So that's encouraging for sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, it is literally like I have my best friend and I we literally probably have, I don't know, if not written, like at least like a concept of like 15 sketches that we've had for easily 10 years. That and honestly, it's probably the simple thing we just have to do is just go do it to get it done.
Right.
Which is like, you know, I'm when it comes to podcasting, when people say, "Hey, how do I start a podcast?" and I say just record it. Like that's the biggest hurdle to get over.
Right.
Something is just, for a podcast is just to do it, because a lot of people are intimidated by it. And I guess really I just need to take my own advice when it comes to you know, stuff and whatnot. Because there's we always talk about like, oh man, we really should start doing this, but like X, Y, and Z, and really like X, Y, and Z. And I don't know, you can probably definitely speak better to this, but like if you wait for X, Y, Z, and this probably can be said for anything, then you're always going to find a reason. Yeah. Like you're always going to find an X, Y, Z after you solve X, Y, Z. Right. There's just going to be another one.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's difficult because, like, you know, still we're still in the phase where I'm making content that I'm like, oh, this could be so much better. Like, you know, I'm very much a perfectionist, but you know, I have to kind of swallow my pride and say, you know what? It's going to suck for a while. Your content's just going to suck until it doesn't. Like, you know, you're not going to be happy with it until you are, and you're not going to get there by not doing it.
Right.
You just have to, like, you know, accept that it's just going to be hard and it's not going to turn out the way you want it to turn out. Right. And and what I found is like, that's me in my own head, you know?
Yeah. Well,
other people enjoy it.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't think of any content creator that doesn't get in their own head. Like it's the thing I hate doing the most when it comes to podcasting is editing, because then I have to listen to me have this conversation that
yourself.
Yeah. And I love every conversation that I have in the moment, but then like when I go back and listen to it, it's like, oh my God, Kev, you're an idiot. And like and
but no one else is thinking
no, absolutely. I mean, maybe, probably, if I had to guess, yeah, a lot of people probably think that, but not for the same reasons I think I'm an idiot. Like they, you know, the reasons they think I'm an idiot are, you know, with a positive spin, or at least I like to think so.
Thanks for listening to this That's Entertainment Podcast Network podcast. Want to hear more great shows? Head on over to thatentertains.com/network to find other great podcasts. We have interview shows like Everything is Awesome with Kevin Gallagher, pop culture and awareness shows like Victims and Villains, and awareness shows like Bullies Keep Out. Keep your eyes posted this spring as we bring back recap shows like After Party of One and the Zomcast. We're also going to be launching some actual play and actual play adjacent shows like Single Player and In Character with Kevin Gallagher. Find more information about these shows and more on thatentertains.com/network.
Same thing with probably since the last time you and I, or the first time you and I talked, I said something about improv classes that I have yet to do, but like finally this year I was like, I'm doing it. Like for the last several years, I've been saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to wait for my best friend to do it. Like we're both going to go do it together because like I can't do anything on my own because I'm a big man child, and whatnot.
And it's scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
it's scary to do something like that on your own.
Especially when I'm 34 going on 35. So I ain't young anymore. Like I'm
well, I mean you are, but
I'm also like, I'm definitely on like the closer side to like, I'm not looking at like some of the people that some of the people I idolized growing up are dying. And B, like, like Kevin Smith is only 13 years older than me or some shit. Like he's not even 50 yet. So like the guy I grew up idolizing and continue to idolize, like I'm actually pretty close to his age. And like, also I'm like 10 and a half years older than he was when he did Clerks. And I shouldn't hold my comparisons like that. I know, like, and there's definitely, what's really kind of been like a great eye opener is like, there's plenty of people that on Twitter or on social media or just in like various articles I've read who've come out and said, hey, I'm so-and-so and I wrote my first novel at the age of 45, or I'm like, that Tim Miller who directed Deadpool, his first feature was Deadpool at the age of 50. So like,
great.
Like,
yeah,
there's definitely like the like I realize that like I shouldn't be like, oh, I'm 35 and I haven't done XYZ. But like,
yeah, no, definitely not.
But like
and you like, and to your credit, like you have built something. Right. It's not like you're like literally right now you are creating. Yes. So,
that's very true. And this continues to evolve and I add things to it and I change things and like there's definitely after this festival that I've gone insane putting together that I still have yet to book my own guest like on my own show for and it's 4 days for the day of recording this episode with Kacey here, super friends. Let's peel back the curtain. It's the 23rd of January and our festival is like 4 days away. Realistically, in 4 days I'm home, festival's over, like from the hour that we're speaking right now.
Wow.
I have my comedian booked, but no main guest because I spent the last few months going insane, putting together a festival that has 24 podcasts, over 20 comedians and improvisers. We needed 4 venues. And also I set the lofty goal of $500 to raise money for the Headstrong Foundation. And I mean, so when people are listening to this, I'm hoping that like, yeah, we blew that goal out of the water but sitting here talking to you right now, Kacey, we are, and this is a good thing, we're at like $360 some out of our 500.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like totally, outdid what we've done the first 2 years combined for the other organization. So I'm really happy about that. And like, my goal is to like, I'm hoping that like the day of the festival, we walk into the first show having the $500 raised so that anything that happens day of is just gravy and there's no stress save for the normal stressors and whatnot. But so I've been like going crazy doing this festival.
Yeah. So you haven't just been doing that in your creating an empire.
Yeah.
But I see how you could still be intimidated about walking into an improv class with a bunch of 19-year-olds.
Right. That's exactly what it is that I just assume I'm going to walk into that improv class as the dad. And I mean, quite literally, I am a dad, but like, oh, hey, old man, what are you doing here?
Right. Oh my gosh. On my just on this little topic. So I have to. Part of my job is to read the comment section on my
Oh,
my YouTube
that's
videos,
awful.
which really sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks. It's pretty much torture. But thank goodness, like most of it is about the content and not about me.
Yeah.
Except for this one video I did where these YouTubers got in trouble. They got arrested for trespassing, right? Because they were making a video where they were trespassing, thought they were cool. So in the video I was like, look, like, should we really be putting videos of kids breaking the law on YouTube? And oh my gosh, the backlash of these 13-year-old kids who were like, listen, lady, I don't know who you think you are. And I was like, oh, I'm officially, hey, you kids, get off my lawn. I am that person now.
No, but I think that's simply like just being a sane adult or a sane person. Because, like, I don't know, when I was in my 20s, and 10 years ago is probably when I officially got the bug to like do stuff in the video landscape and whatever that meant at the time. Because at that point I was only like a year and a half, 2 years into podcasting. So like, I was just in audio mode and I thought I was going to be the greatest radio DJ of all time. And
you are.
well, no. We might be the number one podcast in Bucks County. I've totally made that fact up.
Oh, yeah.
I made that fact up, but we're probably the only podcast in Bucks County.
Still.
Yeah, I mean, number one, right?
Still have the title.
Right. But yeah, like 10 years ago, I got the bug to do video stuff, and I guess it was probably the one and only sketch that we filmed was, I think, probably in February of 2019. I think will be the 10-year anniversary of us doing that video. But like, I never wanted to do videos that were like, let's be jackass, basically. I get the jackass humor, but like the closest thing I want to do that is in the same vein of that humor, it would be like Impractical Joker stuff, because that doesn't seem like, it's idiotic, but idiotic in a way that doesn't break the law. Right. Like whereas the jackass humor, which is like, my God, my son who recently turned 7, he watches YouTube videos, and I don't know, like the big thing he's into, like for his birthday he wanted this hoodie and we got it for him. The Dobre brothers, I don't know who they are, but they're YouTubers who do pranks. Like, that's the thing my kid's into, is these prank videos. And I mean, I should probably be a better parent and vet it a little bit more, but I assume if he has access to it, it's okay. But they do pranks, and so like all he wants to do now is like, I get the heads up.
Pranks.
Yeah, and I get the heads up from my fiance. By the way, he's going to do a prank today. It's going to involve a cupcake and toothpaste, and I'm like, okay, great. This is my life now. And even that is like, I'm okay with that kind of YouTube humor. So maybe that, if that's what the Dobry boys are doing, that's fine. But like the stuff where people are trespassing or going to foreign countries, filming things like dead bodies, like that's insane. Why would you do that?
Right. I know, exactly. Thank you for backing me up on this, but I got dragged, so.
Well, I mean, isn't that what most of the YouTube comment sections is, or any comment section is, just like, people
Trolls.
People don't go out of their way to be nice, unfortunately. Like, it's really rare for people to go out of the way to say, hey, good on you, good job. But it's really easy to say, hey, you suck. Like, exactly. And people get high off of that,
I know, it's a very weird. I've thankfully over the years been getting better and better about separating myself, because like we were talking about with you having to edit yourself, like I've been doing that for years, and at first it's so cringy to have to like look at yourself and edit yourself and blah blah blah, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And then you get to a point, or at least I did, where I was like, okay, I could separate myself from like that's me, to like, okay, what's best for the story, or what's best for what's going on
Yeah.
here. And like, I'm starting to get that way with comments. I'm still susceptible. I think the real victory will be like, I'm still susceptible to the good comments.
Mhm.
If somebody's like thirsty for me in the comments, I'm like, yes, I'm the hottest thing that's ever walked the planet. Validation. And then like the next comment will be like, this lady's teeth is yellow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, So I have to get to the point where I'm like, I'm not swayed by either either way.
Well, that's like, and I guess really it's in every form of media, but very specifically, like in the world of new media, it's so easy to get to fall into those traps and whatnot, because it's, as instantly as we put it out, it gets that feedback just as instantly. And it's the one thing, like I've done, with podcasting at least, is that the first like 7 to 8 years of my podcasting, for lack of a better term, career, I don't make kids, you don't make money on podcasting, but I have a full-time job. You're not gonna make money.
You don't make money at a lot of
Yeah,
things in
right.
entertainment, honestly.
Yeah. Good to know. I can transition to video quite fine then.
Oh yeah, you can make no money there too.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
great.
great. Excellent. The dream lives on. And I think now, like with the mindset that I have with podcasting, I think it will be it will definitely be easier to do that kind of stuff, because like the first 8 years of podcasting for me, it was all about, how do I make this my full-time job? How do I make money? How do I get sponsors? Blah 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 blah. And when I took like a year off from podcasting, or maybe 2 years. And then when I started doing Everything is Awesome in 2016, and I really started pre-production in 2015, and like doing pre-interviews and stuff, it was like, I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and I like to talk and I like to have conversations. So and that's all I'm gonna do. That's all this podcast. It's about me doing what I like to do creatively. And
Yeah.
so I stopped. Like I only, and I say recently, it's probably been the better part of a year now, but I've only recently started looking at numbers again on how many downloads we get. And I only recently like really try to like market stuff, because I wanted, besides just doing the podcast, the show that you and I are doing right now, I want to start doing things at cons and live shows and stuff, and definitely turning it more from like not necessarily like a podcast, but like a performance. So like I have several different versions of this show that I do live, and one of them's at a convention, one of them is a late night show, one of them's an actual play podcast where we sit around and play role-playing games. So
cool.
And that helps keep it fresh, and it helps keep me sane. And sometimes I sit around by myself and talk to myself as Batman, and that's how I smile and not want to kill myself for doing podcasting. So and it's I don't pay attention to anything when it comes to people really responding to the podcast, unless it's directed at, like, I don't pay attention to the show Twitter, which I should. I'm a terrible marketer. I really should be like all about the Everything is Awesome social media, but I'm more of I treat myself like Kevin Smith, in the way that like I just brand at that nerdy Kev, and like that's where I do all my stuff. So if I get hit up there, then I pay attention to it, and very specifically only the positive stuff. If something negative comes through my Twitter, I either ignore it, mute it, or block it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking about that lately too, because on my personal stuff, I don't tolerate people being negative, and especially on Twitter, where it's very easy to do that. Or there's been not a lot, but a few accounts that have been a little like going into like the harassment territory. I don't want to like say that or whatever, but like I have no qualms about which is like blocking that or deleting a comment, because it's like, you're coming into my space and my community and I don't allow that kind of behavior or that kind of energy here.
Yeah.
Like, my place, and for the people who follow me, is going to be a place that's positive, and you can't ruin that.
Right.
But I don't know if that's like, I also feel bad because somebody's just got a notification that they got blocked, which sucks. So it's like,
Well,
oh,
you know,
double-edged sword.
and it's also like, especially when you're a content creator or someone of some sort of fame or whatever, like it's also a tricky situation, like, to actually hit that block. Like, does it warrant a block or a mute or whatever? Because like I also, as much as I am the same way, where like I am very pro positivity. I am very, hence the reason I don't totally shit on Justice League and stuff. Like, I can find positives in those movies.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but I very like, and I don't have the exact verbiage in front of me, but one of my podcasting buddies and friends, Jeff Stormer, we were talking about something, and he showed me like what he has for when he sends like a Google form for people to fill out when they want to be a guest on the show, and it has like this little blurb about being inclusive and not tolerating any kind of racism or sexism or anything that everyone's accepted, color, sexuality,
Right.
gender, whatever, like everyone's accepted. And I was like, oh my god. And not that like I wasn't that way before, but like I never ever really put it out on Front Street, like, hey, that's what this is
Right.
about. And like when I officially started the That's Entertainment Podcast Network, I was like, that's like the mission statement, is that we're a platform for anyone that has a voice, that wants to get it out there. Like, if you don't know how to do a podcast, like, we'll help you, we'll figure it out, we'll get it out there. And like that has trickled down, up, every left, right, like to everything I do when it comes to for content creativity. So it gets real tricky of like,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, I mean that's also called being just a decent human being. Like,
Right.
like I thrive for the day where we don't have to like applaud someone coming out because they shouldn't need to, right? Like,
Or yeah, there shouldn't be shame or
yeah,
trepidation or fear around it.
like it should just be like someone being gay and or in the queer landscape, which and I'll tell you, as a cis white dude, finding out that like that's an acceptable word to say again when you're talking about the community, and like not using it in a negative tone. I was like, because I grew up as a kid, like, you can't say that Q word, that's bad. And like talking with friends who are in the queer community, and they're like, they drop, like, the first friend that dropped that word to me, I'm like, whoa, that's allowed? Like it's such a
Right.
and it's, I'm glad that they took it back.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they took it back and
Yeah.
made it a positive thing. But it was such, it still is. It's 2019, Kev. It still is. I feel really weird saying that word because it's, I don't know about you. I grew up in a society where that was an insult and just as bad as the N word, when I was a kid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like for those of us, I mean, I feel like we're similar, and like I don't ever want anyone to feel like hurt by something that I've said or feel slighted, or I don't want to feel like, I never want to offend a community of people. And like, because maybe because I'm not a part of that community, I'm not aware of everything that's going on or what's acceptable or what's not acceptable in that community. So I too am like very cautious as to like, what's okay, what's not, So I totally see how that's, yeah. I mean, working in comedy, or not, well, yeah, being in comedy too, and also like having that perspective can be a little like, it's like that fine line between like, is this is this funny?
Yeah.
Is it not funny? Is this okay?
Well,
Is it not okay? Like, what can we, like, what do we
well, and
do?
I think there has to be a line, and I think most people understand of from any community understand that like society grows, right? So like there's definitely
Mm,
humor that I did 10 years ago when I first started podcasting that's not acceptable anymore. That was very
right,
shock jockey. That was very in the vein of Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern and Kid Chris and stuff like that. And just like
right,
well, at least I know Stern, and I don't listen to Stern often, but even he has grown as a
yeah,
entertainer and doesn't do the stuff that he did 10, 15, 20 years ago. So I think there
right,
has to be, there's, there has to be room for teaching and growth. So like, things that I did
yeah.
10 years.
Grace for growth.
Yeah. So like, and I bring this up a lot when I get into this conversation. It's the James Gunn of it, right? Like James
Right,
Gunn 10 years ago, yeah, he said some pretty awful stuff, but he's proven that he's
right,
grown as a person and as an entertainer and is not that same person that made those jokes 10 years ago. Um,
right,
did Disney do the right thing? Probably, but did James Gunn do anything wrong? 10 years ago, yeah, but he's shown growth. And I think
right,
it's okay to kind of see both sides of it and say, yeah, Disney probably had to do that, but at the same time, I don't think they
right.
should have. It's
Mm,
that kind of stuff is so tricky, and especially because I'm that guy. I am James Gunn. I have said things
right,
that I, and I regret's a hard word to say because everything you do kind of like adds up to who you are now, and as long as you're happy with who you are now, then you shouldn't
right,
regret what you've done in the past, in my opinion. Um, but
right,
you can recognize that you did some messed up things, and I totally did. Like I screwed up a lot in my 20s. That's what being in your 20s is about. Is
it's about,
it's about
yeah,
being a screw up, and it's about doing dumb things, and it's about you know having crude humor. I mean, that's the reason why the parent company to my empire is called Crude Humor Studios, because
right,
at the age of 23 or whenever we came up with the dumb name, I was like, let's be crude humor, and like that crude humor still
right,
exists today, and it's just a very different form of acceptable humor that you can call crude. And I just think as someone who wants to make sure I'm not hurting anybody, there has to be room for the realization that maybe what I'm saying now, no one's pointing out is bad because no one thinks it's bad right now, and in 10 years, if you listen to something that I said today in 2019 and in 2029, ooh, Kev, you can't get this gig because you said something stupid 10 years ago. Well, there has to be, if I'm a different person in 2029, then there's got to be room for that
right,
forgiveness and growth, and also like room for teaching. Like if I see something in 2019 because I'm a cisgender white dude that doesn't
right.
quite understand everything in your community, please tell me that I fucked up and tell me I said something wrong. Tell me what I did so that I can learn and apologize and make amends and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy now because, the same thing happened with Kevin
Yeah,
Hart and the Oscar stuff, and it's like, I feel like that his response to the situation was also very different, and there was also a lot of backlash for that. And it's just like I'm curious to see, because honestly, 10 years ago was the first time you like we didn't really know that stuff we were putting on the internet would come back to haunt us in
right,
10 years, and also that culture would change to where things we said might not be appropriate anymore in 10 years. Like we didn't have that
right,
insight
right.
yet, and I'm curious to see, like, the next generation, because I mean I look back and I'm like, oh my god, if the stuff that I was making at 10, 12 years old, the stuff that I was thinking, my first selfies that I had on my digital camera, that I was trying to be super cute and get attention and get validation in that part of my life, if those were on the internet still, like, oh my god. So I'm I'm curious to see this, like, as we grow, like, if there's going to be more awareness of like what you put
Right.
online, to be more mindful of it, or if people will just be like, oh yeah, well, they did that when they were
Right.
15. What do you think about it now? Oh, you don't agree with it now? Okay, great, let's move on.
And I
Like,
think there's so many different ways you can come at that, because you have the because another strike, I guess you could say, that's against someone like James Gunn, is that he was in his 30s when he said that stuff 10 years ago, and he's in his 40s now. So like
mm-hmm.
maybe that's a strike against him, because like maybe in your 30s you should know that. But like I think it goes back to like, let's look at like the generation, in the 2009, 2010, and into 2020, in this 10-year gap. It's being a 30-year-old in 2010 and even in 2019 is very different than being a 30-year-old 40 years ago. Because guess what?
Right.
The 30-year-olds now have grown up with the internet, and have grown up with a different mindset, with a different entertainment that's found acceptable. We, or at least I, grew up in the generation that where that kind of crude humor was actually the main humor. It was what everyone was doing. You look at, and if you're not a wrestling fan, it's going to maybe go over your head, but you look at wrestling in the 90s, which is when I was born in 84. I grew up I was a 90s kid. I was alive in more of the 90s than I was the 80s. And in the 90s, that was the Attitude Era. That was the era of wrestling where you flipped off your boss, where you drank beer, where you told people to suck it. Like that was wrestling and that was a acceptable form of entertainment that does not fly in 2019. And I think that if you're a teenager in the 90s and you're growing up with that, maybe when you're 30 years old in 2010, 2015, whatever, maybe you don't quite understand yet. You're still a kid, you're still forming, like, and maybe when I'm 45, I'll say the same thing about when you're in your 40s, but you're always changing. So like it's a hard situation. I think when you're 15 and you do something stupid on the internet, even in 2030, in 10 years from now, I think that it will be way more forgivable than when a 30-year-old does it. Because you should know better, but at the same time, maybe you shouldn't, because it's such a tricky situation, that people from before our generation didn't have to deal with, because when my dad was a teenager in the 60s, and then became a 30-year-old in the 80s or whatever, he didn't have to like he didn't have the internet to like call him on his bullshit. So like everyone's growth wasn't as apparent. No one knew what was acceptable, what was unacceptable. Like it took longer for society to catch up with what was acceptable. With the internet, especially in for a good thing, especially in 2018, 2019, like people get called on their bullshit, and with the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement and all these great movements that are really,
it allows for us to grow. And it's a little bit of growing pains, but it allows for us to see each other's perspectives way easier.
And I know that in 10 years from now, there will definitely be something that is on a podcast, that's something on the internet that I said that might be frowned upon. It's going to happen because, and while I like to think that I'm pretty woke and in tune with, just being what I said earlier, being someone who's accepting of all people and communities and stuff. It goes back, like I'm not part of those communities. Like as far as like I only know what a cisgender white dude knows. Like I can't. I may say something that offends you as what I assume is a cisgender white female. And I won't know that it offends you, and maybe you don't know that it offends you until there's something that in 10 years that points it out, that says, hey, you know what, things like that 10 years ago was fucked up. And I don't think it's I think it's always going to be an issue. I think and I don't know that anyone is ever going to realize that maybe I shouldn't post this on the internet, because at the time you don't know that it's fucked up, and society doesn't know that it's fucked up.
Right. Yeah. So
No, that was
hopefully
that was a
we'll figure it
that was
out.
a very weird tangent to go on.
Thanks for coming to our TED Talk.
And, TED Talk over. There you go. Wow. It's
we always cover really deep
oh my
topics.
God, you're right.
I don't know if you do that with everybody.
Sometimes, but like definitely, yeah. Because we went into your first episode, we went into some deep talks about women in the entertainment industry, and
the industry.
Look at that.
Oh man, we're so deep.
Well, obviously that's the name of this week's episode is We're So Deep.
We're so
also
deep.
Also the name of your future podcast, We're So Deep with Kacey Spivey.
Right. I know. I don't know if I could do a podcast. I have toyed with the idea. But hosting a podcast is something that I don't think I have in my DNA. So
no, everyone can do it.
I appreciate your skill set.
No, everyone can do it. It's here's, and I've been, as someone who's done it for, God Christ, in July 1st will be 12 years. So 11 and a half years at this point.
Ooh.
You need to find something that you can willingly say, oh, if I do this for 150 episodes, if I do this for 200 episodes, if I do this for infinity, for every week or most weeks or bi-weekly, if that's your thing, then can you do it that many times? Like, can you do it forever or however long you plan on doing it? Right. And you got to find that thing. And for me, like, I love like podcasts that it's just a couple of friends, 2-3 friends, whatever, sitting around talking. Doom Thugs, podcast in the Philadelphia area that does that kind of concept. Love it. Smodcast, Kevin Smith, Scott Mosier. That type of podcast I love. I would love to do that kind of podcast, but the issue is scheduling. I usually, the reason I talk to a lot of West Coast people is because they can talk at 7 p.m. and I can talk at 10 p.m. Right. And so scheduling is my thing. And so to get that feeling, I just make a lot of new best friends through my podcast and sit around and talk for an hour and a half, every once in a while. And it's a new person every week. And it works. And it makes it so that I can do it, more or less 150 some weeks in a row. Sometimes taking a month or two off because I go mentally insane and then catch up in 1 month by posting, multiple episodes a week or whatever. But, that's what you need you just need to find something that like you're passionate, that's not going to feel like it's work. And my big thing is because helping people do their podcast in 2018, that's what I did. I realized that like if I want to do my creative things, I can't necessarily do all the work for people, like edit their shows, because like if I'm doing that for free, like that takes time that I'm not doing to either better my show, expand into other shows I want to do, or like we said earlier in the show, like I want to write and direct something, whether it's a short, a sketch, or a film, so I can't do that if I'm doing all this free work. So it's something that I went forward with in 2019 was saying like, hey, I will happily publish your shit for free. Just get me something that's edited. And that's something that I realized this year that I needed to do. But like, if you can just like, the one reason I don't do much editing is because I don't want to, then it becomes a job. So I sit down and hit record and then hopefully just have to piece it together at the end. And that way I'm not spending 6 hours doing something for a hour and a half show. And now it doesn't feel like work and I have fun doing it. So everyone can do a podcast. And if you can find someone to do some of the heavy lifting for you, then, or find a way to not have to do any heavy lifting, then you'll succeed. I think you will. I mean, you if you can do what you do with the blonde jokes and what's trending and everything else, you can do an hour of audio.
Okay.
I assure you. You just got to find, what it is you want to do. And in my
Yeah.
opinion, don't be afraid that it's not unique. Like, because chances are it's not
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be. In 2019, there's 1,000,005 podcasts, so
Right.
you being 1,000,006, chances are someone's doing something that you're doing, but what's going to make it special is that it's Kacey Spivey doing it. And
Ah.
spoiler alert, you have a built-in audience. Like, you have a built-in audience.
I have one audience member.
You have me, at the very least, as your number one fan and champion. So, and it also goes back to the whole concept of just do it. Like, you can't.
Right, exactly.
The hardest thing about podcasts, I swear to God, the hardest part is hitting record for the first time. Once you do that,
Right.
then the next hardest thing is getting to 10 episodes, because okay, here's some crazy stats that I haven't spewed in forever. Out of 50% of podcasts or something like that that start get to 10 episodes, and then out of those podcasts, maybe 50% get to 50 episodes. So like, yeah, there might be another Everything Is Awesome. Literally, there is another Everything Is Awesome out there, and they still do their show, and I do my show, but there's tons of shows that are me hosts sitting down and talking to person, but maybe 10% of those shows are still out there today that started 2 years ago, and I'm one of them. So, it's just about, it's about doing it. It's get out there, hit record, and then, and make it to 10, then
keep it up.
I like to set little milestones, and I like to do something special for those milestones. And that's how I kind of that's how I keep doing it, basically, is like, okay,
yeah,
when I hit 10 episodes, we're going to celebrate this way. When we hit 25 episodes, we're going to have Batman on the show. When we hit 50, we're going to have Thor on the show. When we had, which I think ended up being actually Batman again. When we hit 100 episodes, we're going to do a live show, and play a game. When we do 150 episodes, we're going to play another game and whatnot. So that's, you set up milestones and rewards, like, to do something different and challenge yourself. I think the best thing you can do as a podcast is try not to make it so niche that, like, you can't change your format up, because then you're going to get bored doing it. And that's why I very purposely every year on the anniversary change something about my show. Like this year, obviously, as we've heard in this episode with you, Kacey, I don't let my guests talk very often. That's what I'm going to do.
You're just going to preach.
Yeah. I'm just going to preach, let you talk for 5 minutes, and then it's going to be 95% me talking. We're also changing our artwork up a little bit, and I think officially the podcast is now called Everything Is Awesome with Kevin Gallagher, because spoiler alert, there's another Lego movie coming out, and when you search Everything Is Awesome, I don't show up. So
no.
So when we tag it with Kevin Gallagher, it should come up to me.
It's official.
Yeah, it's official. So so my 2019 challenge to you, Kacey Spivey, on top of everything else you're doing, is start a podcast, and
oh my gosh,
send me an edited file, and I'll throw it up on the internet for you.
Oh my gosh, I guess we could do a Blonde Jokes podcast if we wanted.
I swear to God, today I was thinking, catching up on some of the videos today, I was like, oh, they totally could just do a podcast called The Blonde Jokes. It would work. And I don't know what the concept would be.
And we could just talk about feminist stuff, stuff that's happening that is, I don't know, but just from our perspective, I guess. That's another thing, is who would listen to me be like, yeah, the LA teachers won their case, and I'm super excited about it. I guess people would listen. Who knows?
All right,
I guess it doesn't matter.
So I'm gonna and if people hear me typing and whatnot, I apologize, but I'm gonna go to YouTube. Well, so first we'll go to twitter.com/heycase. So that's a plug for you, Kacey. So there's
Oh, good.
let's say 10% of your 11K followers, they would
Yeah.
probably listen. We'll even say
Really?
5%. Even 5% would probably
Okay.
listen. All right. Then you have let's see what's trending, right? Let's go to
yeah.
let's find a video with you. Scrolling. See, I'm really bad at this.
The first video is with me.
Oh, okay.
The one that's a YouTube creator and musical artist. Most of them are of me.
Let's all right. Maybe I should just go to YouTube. What is it? YouTube.com/what's trending.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
YouTube.com/what's trending. This is fascinating podcasting. And what's great,
yeah.
Kacey, here's the secret. I don't care. Whoa. Okay. Wow. I don't know if you heard that, but I did.
Yeah.
Okay. So
No. The sound? No,
oh, okay.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. It was actually your voice jumping into me, but all right.
Very loud.
Yeah. So this video, oh my
Sorry.
God, pause, please. So this video is from one.
I can't even hear.
Yeah. So what this podcast has turned into is me screaming at what sounds like nobody, but it's me screaming at YouTube, I promise. But okay, so this what's trending video from December 17th, 2018, about James Charles. Was that you? Okay, so
Yep. Well, I wasn't in it, but I wrote it.
Oh, you weren't in it? That wasn't your voiceover?
You know. No, that was my boss's.
Oh, wow. You know what? I'm horrible. You sound very similar.
There are plenty of me in
okay,
it.
and let's just say this 3 million views of people watching what's trending video, right? 39,000 likes. Yeah. 5% of them will probably care as long as like they know about it,
That's
so
true.
And like you're almost at a couple you're like at 1,000 subscribers on the Blonde Jokes. You're like 750. You're gonna have people. You have an audience, is what I'm saying. You have a built-in audience.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have an audience that
if I just do it,
exactly, just do it, as Nike would say. And if you just do it and then you put it out there to the world, people will listen. I mean, again, people listen to this dopey show. People listen to Everything is Awesome. They listen to a podcast with the name from that Lego movie. So, if they're listening to this, and I'm a nobody, like literally the only thing I have is podcasting. So like, if I have an audience, you're going to have an audience for sure. And then also at the end of the day, that shouldn't be your worry when it comes to podcast and maybe anything.
Doing anything.
That's something that I cared about for 8 years and I hated. I never, my longest running show in that 8-year time period, when 167 or 168 episodes, mainly in a row, maybe with like holidays off. So Everything is Awesome by probably the summer will surpass that. And I have enjoyed every single moment doing this podcast without caring about anything but what I'm doing and the content that I'm creating and whatnot. So to me, especially with podcasting, because podcasting, even probably for the likes of like Kevin Smith and Mark Maron and whatnot, while they make some money off of it, it is definitely a labor of love more than anything else. Right. So I think worrying about who's going to listen should be like, out of 5 concerns, your number 5 concern. Maybe even your number 6. Maybe even your number 6 out of 5.
Well, maybe I'll do it because Heidi has brought it up.
Oh my God! Oh my God! You got people left and right telling you to do it. And I'm telling you, you send me an edited file, I'll throw it up on the internet. I'll host it. I'll publish it.
Oh my God!
You literally, where it costs podcasters money to get this stuff out into the world because you have to pay for hosting and stuff. I will give you hosting to get. That's the whole point you know, I know this podcast is supposed to be about you and whatnot. On what do we call this? We're getting deep. Is that what we're this episode's called? We're getting deep.
We're so deep.
We're so deep. You know,
Right.
but you know that the whole point of the podcast network I started was to give people a voice that has something to say, or a platform. I can't. I'm getting delirious. Give people a platform. That's the word. If they have a voice that they want to share, and everyone has a voice that they should share, I think. So, and I think something that's very, you know, in much like everything else in the world that's very underrepresented is the female perspective. So I'm not just for the fact that you're a friend and I think you should be doing this because you'd be good at it. Very selfishly, because I think that there should be more female podcasters.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm very convinced now, I think.
So I expect
I started at a 0 and now I'm at like a 75, 80%.
There you go. Boom. That's all you need. And now all you have to do is hit record and then you're at 100. Then you're in. You're pot committed at that point.
Pod committed.
Yeah. So that's the 29 challenge.
I'm about to start a podcast. I can't believe this.
It's but when this airs, let's see. Let's look at I believe this will air, hopefully, if I have everything caught up in time, either February 6th or February 13th is when this episode is going to air. So my challenge to you is not, I'm giving you extra time because the people listening to this think it's mid-February. You have till March 31st to have you like to be a nerd and come up a pitch plan and whatnot. At bare minimum, a pitch plan or whatever you called it earlier. Okay. March 31st at bare minimum, and then by April 1st have it recorded. No, by April 30th have it recorded.
Oh
that gives
God.
you
okay.
That gives you like weeks. Gives you time. In fact, I'm giving you too much time. I'm giving you time to back out.
You're giving me like 4 months.
All right, tomorrow. Get it done tomorrow.
I will probably. I don't know. I think that's a very reasonable. I think those are very reasonable timelines.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, especially like if you've already been talking about it with your writing partner,
with Heidi,
with your blonde.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I don't. It's
with
my
with
your blonde partner.
With my blonde bitch, my main blonde bitch.
If you guys have already been talking about it, then you already have like the nugget of an idea. So you just gotta write that pitch. Or whatever you need to do to convince yourself to do it is what you need to do. And then like, I mean, I've seen your videos, like you definitely have stuff, unless you're borrowing equipment when you do some of those videos, but you have equipment to, I mean, if you can record video, you can very easily sit down and do audio.
Mics right here.
Yeah.
I got them set up right next to me right now. We could totally do it. Oh my God. I can't believe I'm about to get into podcasting.
You're welcome for me ruining your life because again, it's labor of love. You're never gonna get paid, and but
you know what? At least we'll leave the world knowing we said something.
Exactly. I mean, and even if on this show, even if it's about Batman, you know, I left the world talking about Batman for almost 150 some weeks, and guess what? I shoehorned him in this week too. Huzzah! All right. Kacey Spivey, I think I've taken over this episode enough in the last half hour. I think I've successfully forced you to start a podcast. So I think my job is done for the night. I think we can let I think before you convince yourself not to do it while you're hearing me go on and on and on about how great and how bad podcasting is all at the same time, why don't you get some plugs out there? Where can people find you? What's trending, Bond jokes, and everything else you're working on? And then we'll take this home.
Great. So you can follow me, subscribe, find me. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, all the places at hey_case. That's like ace with a K, K-A-C-E. You can follow my comedy stuff at The Blonde Jokes. And What's Trending is at What's Trending on all social platforms. So go check it out.
Yes, and it's I definitely I watch the blonde jokes all the time. So I mean, I have to catch up sometimes. I take weeks off if I'm being honest. But I vouch for the blonde jokes, and very clearly a lot of places vouch for What's Trending because you can. What's the hashtag? Spot Kacey. What's the
For what?
hashtag for when people spot you in the wild for the What's Trending videos?
Oh, I haven't started a hashtag.
Oh, really? I
for
thought there was
it.
a hashtag. I thought I saw that.
Should I
Oh,
start
totally.
one? What should it
Oh,
be?
God. Let's see it.
Casey in the
Yeah.
Wild?
Oh, yeah.
Should it be
Hashtag
that?
Casey in the Wild. There it is. That's what it is. It's I mean, people can see your What's Trending videos not only on YouTube, but like in airports and gas station stuff, right?
And in gas
Yeah.
stations. Yeah.
So
yeah, Casey in the Wild. I'm starting that now. Hashtag Casey for Batgirl. Hashtag Casey in the Wild. People are gonna be like, "Who is this person?"
hashtag Casey start a podcast.
Yes.
I'd also be okay with
Oh
it
my
being
God.
called "We're So Deep." I mean, that's such a great name for a podcast.
We're so deep.
That I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's not already a podcast. So I like to, and if you look at like the homepage for the That's Entertainment podcast page, people have basically dared me to start podcasts that I have images for. Like someone basically dared me to start a podcast called the Muppet Show, which is a podcast that recaps every episode of the Muppet Show. So like, I have yet to start it, obviously, but I created the artwork for it. Something that I have not posted there, but someone basically dared me to like say someone should start a podcast called Deep Thoughts with Aquaman. I have artwork out in the world for a podcast called Deep Thoughts with Aquaman. So I just Jason Momoa, you're on deck, buddy. To start.
Oh my God, great.
But so yes, there's a podcast out there with your name on it. I'm sure. I guarantee. I'm almost positive we've even joked like a year ago or 2 years ago about you doing a podcast, and there was some name that we had for it. I remember like a tweet.
I'm sure
I remember
was.
a tweet about it, but you can also just do the blonde jokes too. I mean, that's your brand, so keep rolling with that.
Yeah.
Plus, it's one less
deep.
social media account.
So deep with the blonde.
So there you go. So deep with the blonde jokes. Boom. Perfect. It's.
I love it.
You keep working on it. You got a couple weeks to officially come up with what your pitch is for what you want to do in the podcast. And like I said, it sounds like the seed has been planted at least by your podcasting partner. Well, yeah, podcasting partner, writing partner, your blonde bitch, as you said, or biatch, is it? Again,
main blonde biatch.
Remember, I am 34 going on 35, so I'm not with the hip language anymore. I think I'm officially, I think in July, when I turn 35, not only can I officially run for president, I'm also officially out of like everyone's demographic. Like no one cares about me anymore because I'm 35. I think that's how it goes.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's.
But hey, good news. There's another option for president. I could run for president starting in July. So maybe on July 13th I'll officially announce my presidency.
Listen, that would be great.
I mean, listen.
Batman for president or something like that.
I mean, listen, I hate talking politics on the show, but if we're in the situation that we're in now, if that can happen, why not some dopey kid who dresses and talks like Batman from Philadelphia? That's all I'm saying. Hashtag youngest president ever, maybe? Huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We have so many hashtags.
On that note,
you're gonna be maxed on these hashtags for the post.
I won't have room for anything else but the hashtags and maybe the link to the episode.
Yeah. They're like, what is this tweet of hashtags?
God, I don't think he knows the internet. He's not interneting right. All right.
Oh,
All
that's
right,
good.
Casey, thank you for being on the show. We'll have to definitely make it
Thank you
less
for having
than
me.
once every 2 years or a year and a half or however long it's been.
Yeah,
Let's not go
please.
an entire year without Casey on Everything is Awesome.
I agree.
All right. Thank you. Big thank yous. Thank yous? Big thank you to Kacey Spivey for being on the show, and for all the hard work, because I knew she was very apprehensive about starting a podcast. So all the hard work she did in 2018 to do a podcast with her Blind Jokes, writing partner, creative partner, just friend, Heidi. So thank both of them for doing the Blonde Jokes podcast. It meant a lot to me that they provided some content to thatentertains.com/network, the That's Entertainment Podcast Network. While the network has now turned into less of I was very proud that the network was representing inclusion as best as we could, with being a dominantly woman-based network. I'm running the thing on my own, which I would love to bring someone in with me to help run the network. But I was always hesitant to bring on shows that were hosted by people that look like me, cisgender white dudes, because there's a dime a dozen. I'm a dime. Like there's general cisgender white dudes hosting long form conversation podcasts all the time. And we're getting into a world where, like, yes, of course, the podcasting landscape is a very inclusive space, and there are people of all genders and or non-binary and color and whatever hosting their own podcasts and whatnot. I find that sometimes it's hard to get it launched and get it started, and there are costs behind it that a lot of times are like, oh man, I gotta pay for this, and chances are I'm not gonna make money off of it. It can be a very disheartening business unless you're one of the big boys or girls or big non-binary podcasters. Like it can be very disheartening, and I try to do my best to take all the pain away from that. And in doing so, I often put my own creative work to the side. And that's something that I absolutely said that was not going to happen probably midway through 2019, because I was focusing so much, the little bit of saneness that I had in 2019 where I didn't feel bogged down. I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel like, I had so much work to do. I didn't focus on my own stuff. I focused on all the other shows that were on the network. And I had to cut back on editing and stuff. And in doing so, I mean, it may have burned bridges. I'm not 100% sure, because there's not a lot of communication from some of those shows. I don't know if I don't know if they stopped doing it because they didn't have someone to edit it anymore, which sucks. It really does that I couldn't do it for free anymore. But I could not. I looked at my time, the very little time I had, and the value that was to me, and I could not justify doing it anymore, while still having a place and a platform for people to come to at low to no cost. We don't charge any of our shows for hosting, and going forward with our new setup, we're not going to charge any of our shows for hosting. We're going to be moving to a better podcasting hosting platform and a better website hosting platform all in one. And and I'm still going to be able to do that at no cost, which is something I'm really, really proud of. So I do, as I'm going to be adding at least one more we'll say one more, but technically two more shows I'm going to be adding of my own to the network in 2020. It is a little disheartening to do that when we've lost some of the shows that made us a little bit more diverse. And so I am probably, though I had a bunch of ideas to do shows and record. Some of them are monthly, some of them are bi-weekly, whatever. I am going to limit myself to Everything Is Awesome, the after party of one podcast, and another podcast that I'm starting. I'm probably going to limit myself to those three until we get more diverse again. But that is so while I am very happy in 2020 that I've moved into a space where I'm getting a lot more creativity out into the world, it is a little disappointing that it seems like that the network has suffered some of its diversity in return. And part of that was losing the blonde jokes. So that was a long-winded way of saying I thank Kacey and Heidi for their time that they spent doing the blonde jokes and producing that and editing it and getting it to me so that we could get it posted every other Monday. I really enjoyed that podcast. And I hope that they do it again one day. And a big thank you and a big apology to Kacey for her appearance on this episode, because she took time out of her day to sit down and record with me, and it took me a year to get it out. Though I do truly believe she understands the mental space that can overtake people. So I think she understands, but I do publicly thank her for being on the show and apologize for the length of time it took to get out. And we will absolutely over the summer get her back on the show and just chit chat. I would love to. I see her on her Instagram. You can follow her. I don't know if we gave her plugs out on the episode. You can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at HeyCase. And I'll see her post every now and then in her stories, rolling some dice, rolling those D20s, and playing some D&D. So, I'll have to try to get some sort of actual play, whether it's with a group of people over Roll20 or just like a one-on-one party of one, heart points, pot of love type. You are not alone type of 1v1. Not 1v1, a one-on-one actual play podcast that's very popular here in Philadelphia. I don't know. Maybe that's the next thing Kacey and I will do. That would be kind of fun. Anyway, so make sure you follow her at HeyCase on the Twitter and on Instagram. You can just search the blonde jokes. I believe it's at the blonde jokes, or there might be I think it's at the _blonde jokes on Twitter. But if you search for the blonde jokes on Twitter, on YouTube and stuff, you can find their very, very talented, hilarious videos. So make sure you check all that out. Make sure you check us out on Twitter at Real Awesome Pod, and me on Twitter at That Nerdy Kev. I'm trying to get in 2020. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers, baby. So hit that follow, whatever you kids do on Twitter these days. I don't know. Follow me on Twitter at That Nerdy Kev, and follow the show at Real Awesome Pod. I'm also on Instagram at That Nerdy Kev. The show's on Instagram at I believe at Awesome Podcast. We're at awesomepodcast.com. So please check us out. Thank you so much for listening. And we're going to just kind of get to our housekeeping, baby.
We like to end Everything Is Awesome with a call to action. Super friends, there are a lot of terrible things happening in the world right now. It can feel like you can't do anything to help, but you can. It takes people like you and me to make a difference. One of the easiest and most effective ways to action is to call your representatives about issues that are important to you.
Issues like the 2020 election. Guys, your number one priority in 2020 is to make sure you're registered to vote, okay? We are in a presidential election year, guys, and this is your time to use your voice. You should vote in every election that's available to you to vote in, because every vote matters. And as we rebuild everything from the local government up, we're gonna fix things. We're gonna get better. All right. So number one priority, because it's been a shit show for 4 years. Your number one priority is to register to vote and go out and vote. Vote, vote, vote. Vote with your heart. If there are issues that are a concern to you, you can go to 5calls.org. That's 5calls.org. Or maybe it's make5calls.org. There's another piece where I'll say the actual URL, but you can go there and get scripted script to read to your senators and House representatives about issues that matter to you, and let them know, because every call is much better than you just tweeting about it or just spitting it out into the ether. When you call and you leave your name and your zip code and you give all that information, they are listening and they realize, oh, Kev from Levittown, my constituent, he thinks this is an issue, and so do all these other people, and we're going to help make these people happy and make this change happen. So please, please, please register to vote. And if there's issues that are a concern to you and you need help figuring out how to get your voice heard, go to 5calls.org. When I call my reps, I use a site called 5calls.org. That's the number 5calls.org. There, you'll find issue summaries for issues that are important to you, contact information for your representatives, and a script to read while you're on the phone to make sure your message gets across. Calling is quick, easy, and is one of the most effective ways to have your voice heard. Thank you to all our supporters on patreon.com/thatnerdykev and ko-fi.com/thatnerdykev. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to bring this awesome episode to you. If you want to support us in a non-monetary way, word-of-mouth recommendations and a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts are the best ways to spread the good word of awesome. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter @RealAwesomePod or @AwesomePodcast on Instagram. We're available on awesomepodcast.com or thatentertains.com/network. Get news about Everything is Awesome from our website, social media accounts, or my personal Twitter @thatnerdykev. You can also join our Discord server at bit.ly/awesomediscord or join our newsletter at bit.ly/thatentertainsnewsletter. If you're interested in ad rates, live appearances, help with your podcast, or have a question or comment, email us at awesome@crudeHumorstudios.com. Everything is Awesome is a production of That's Entertainment Podcast Network in association with Crude Humor Studios. Crude Humor Studios is a Philadelphia-based production company specializing in audio, video, and live performances. You can find more info at crudehumorstudios.com. Thanks for listening, super friends. We've been awesome.
That's Entertainment Podcast Network. Entertainment and culture. Artist-owned, fan-supported.